In the 16th century, as now, expecting a baby meant preparing in good time all the baby clothes and the cot linen. The new baby's outfit consisted of swaddling bands, cloths and towels of various sizes and kinds. Babies of high social standing were wrapped not only in linen bands, but in outer ones of silk, finely decorated with gold embroidery, pearls or lace, and their coverlets were similarly rich, trimmed with fur and embroidered silks. The shape of the baby's cradle has not changed much over the centuries. There were rocking cradles, wickerwork baskets, and hammocks that hung from a beam near the bed of the mother or the wet nurse. In all families, even grand ones such as the Medici, baby clothes and cot linen were passed on from child to child. The methods of binding newborn babies remained unchanged until at least the 18th century. The child was wound in several strips of cloth which formed a kind of cocoon. Starting from the shoulders, the swaddling bands covered the whole body, and sometimes even the head. Thus bound, the infant became a rigid object, easy to be moved around and propped up. In fact, swaddling bands were regarded as essential for correcting the too soft body of the infant, which was thought to lack the correct form. For this reason, whenever the nurse changed the baby, she first unwrapped the bands and then massaged and manipulated the child's limbs so as to make them firm. The article of clothing specific to early childhood consisted of long shirts or straight dresses reaching to the feet, which seemed to have been worn by children until they learned to use the potty. At this stage, no distinction was made between girls' and boys' clothing. Social standing is emphasized by the richness of the fabrics, the decorations and the accessories. Precious silks, adorned with rich trimmings, elaborate embroidery, fine jewels. From the second half of the 16th century, small children were often clothed in long Hungarian-style dresses, open in front. Particularly practical, compared with the clothes made in imitation of adults' garments, the Hungarian-style dresses may be regarded as the first clothes made specifically for children. Inspired by Middle Eastern styles and characterized by frogging made of silken or golden braid, they had decorative sleeves reaching from the shoulders down to the ground, which were used by the nurses as reins to put a brake on their young charges. Beneath the Hungarian-style dress, as well as a shirt with a finely worked collar, the child wore a doublet, or more simply, separate sleeves laced at the shoulders which could easily be changed. The sleeves, in fact, are the parts most likely to deteriorate. The task of stiffening the body, for newborn infants carried out by the swaddling bands, was performed by the corset, certainly worn by girls, but also, most probably, by boys as well. When the nurses were unable to keep an eye on their charges, they shut them in specially made boxes and little chairs, where the children could stand up or sit down, eat or play with a variety of objects, many of which were charms to bring good fortune, worn round the neck or attached to the belt. They included the wolf's tooth teether and various types of tinkling bell. There were also proper toddling frames, the simplest of which were made of wickerwork. From the time they were little, so as to protect their heads from frequent falls, children wore bonnets reinforced with leather, or little helmets with padded protection. Pets, especially dogs, were the constant companions of well-born children. Lapdogs are often portrayed together with their little owners. But there were also exotic animals such as monkeys. Some of the traditional toys were wooden hobby horses and dolls with sets of clothing and furnishings. Among the dolls we find infant Jesuses, saints, miniature priests and nuns. These had the double purpose of educating the children in religious knowledge and of familiarizing them with the idea of an ecclesiastical career or of the cloister, chosen for them in advance. Small weapons and bullets for various types of games are documented in the portraits and inventories of the time. Boys, from a very early age, learned to handle real weapons adapted to their size. Little pistols, lances and pikes, bows for shooting clay balls at pigeons. Hunting and fishing were group activities even for little girls, who took part in them accompanied by their nurses or governesses. The education of children really began only after their 4th year, when their chances of surviving had considerably increased in a society where even the rich suffered high infant mortality. Children, regarded as imperfect beings, were from this age strictly brought up to become the kind of adults required by their family's social position. Boys destined for ecclesiastical careers were dressed as little cardinals, and girls, who were already used to wearing habits and veils, were often sent off to convents. Future military commanders learned the use of arms, familiar to them since infancy, and their clothes were often adorned with the devices of the chivalric orders. Even in the richest families, such as the ducal one, nothing was ever wasted. Children's clothing was frequently made out of fabrics or trimmings from their parents' discarded clothes. Whatever the future held for them, the rigid design of their clothes, made like miniature versions of adults' garments, taught children that at all times of the day, the body was to be dominated and controlled in every particular. Even the clothes they wore were intended to prepare children for the role which their parents and their social standing had predetermined for them.